Clinton made her appearance at the Iowa State Fair yesterday, facing opponents both real and imagined. This week, not one but two potential challengers popped up. Rumor number one, that Al Gore, who's rarely seen in public these days, could jump in the race, but that was quickly shot down by a spokesperson. Gathering more steam, though, reports that Vice President Joe Biden is seriously considering running for president. And here to tell us how he'll make the decision is Josh Alcorn, who is a senior advisor to the Draft Biden campaign. Josh, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dana.
All right, so let's start with the context here. You were a close friend of Beau Biden, who was the vice president's son, who, of course, passed away in late May. There was a report that he urged his father to run because he believed that it not only believed in his father, but also knows him as somebody who doesn't care about leaving and making money, and that he should stay in public service. What do you know about that?
You know, I know that Beau Biden believed that his father would make an incredible president. He believed that in 1988 when the vice president ran the first time. He believed it in 2008 when he ran most recently. So there's no doubt in my mind that Beau thought his dad would make an incredible president.
And he told you that?
I mean, Beau and I had a lot of conversations, Dana, about 2016. We would sit together in the office kind of talking about who our fundraisers would be, who our pollster would be, but we were always talking about his race for governor of Delaware in 2016. That was his focus, and that was our 2016.
You almost had me there.
I know. I led you through with it, yeah.
So the Bidens haven't asked you to stop doing this, to begin this Draft Biden campaign.
Sure.
And that gives you hope, I would imagine.
You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't the right thing to do. For about 2 weeks before I joined Draft Biden, I was hearing from friends of mine and Beau's who had hosted fundraisers for us, kind of in the Biden network of supporters. I've been hearing from people who were on the ground in Iowa, Iowans who I helped organize for the vice president in his run in 2007, calling me and saying, is he going to get in the race? He should get in the race. We would love to see him on the debate stage in Las Vegas in October. And so this is the right place for us right now, for me to be right now.
And you are obviously getting out there as part of Draft Biden, getting grassroots support.
We've seen our list has grown significantly since we started.
How much support is there for Biden versus maybe just the idea that they're not so thrilled about Hillary Clinton?
I think it's really, this isn't about Hillary Clinton or Martin O'Malley or Bernie Sanders or any other Democrats in the race. This is about Joe Biden. I think the reason we've seen such significant growth in our email list, this started, Draft Biden started back in March with a couple of thousand names on an email list. We're over 200,000 people today. And the reason for that, I think, is Joe Biden is the original authentic candidate. He's the guy who can walk around and talk to people like you and me and talk to people in Iowa and South Carolina and all over the country and really connect with them on a visceral level. And so I think that's where the momentum is coming from. It's our job at Draft Biden to sort of remind people who Joe Biden is, his long career in the Senate and his close relationship with the president.
There's some talk this weekend about whether the vice president, if he does run, should pledge to just run as a one-term president so that he can focus on policy and not worry about the politics of getting reelected. Is that a good idea?
I think everybody's a one-term president until they're reelected, right? And so
right,
I
but
hope
that's the point, is that they would be reelected, so you have to focus on politics and on campaigning and saying the right thing. Right. If you're a one-term president, that doesn't matter.
No, I hope that Joe Biden's a two-term president. I think most of the people who are supporting Draft Biden would as well. But again, this is about the level of debate he would bring, the level of dialogue he would bring to this debate.
Okay, just very quickly, this might be a tough one, but I've heard from sources who love Joe Biden just like you, that part of his thinking is that his son had two small children who now don't have a father, and that he feels that he needs to be a father to them. And obviously, it's hard to do that when you're running for president. How much do you think he should think about it, and maybe do you as a family friend?
I think he has a deliberative process that he's going through with his family and his inner circle. I think more than anybody, he understands the demands that are put on a person running for president or as president. And so I think there's a lot of factors he's weighing. But most importantly, I think that he needs to make this decision his own way. And what Draft Biden's doing is kind of giving him the space to make this decision.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let us know when you get the goods, okay?
I will.
Okay, thank you.